come to the market, they choose the bundle that maximizes their utility. But is that going to be a feasible allocation? Is it going to be possible for both of them to maximize their utility at any given prices? And the answer is not necessarily. So the price mechanism is what adjusts those prices to the point where things work out smoothly. This is what we refer to when we're talking about Adam Smith's invisible hand. So let's get into that in a little more detail. So like I said, Rob and Friday, all these Robs and all these Fridays are going to come to the market, they take the prices given, and then they are going to demand the bundle, they're going to sell their endowments and demand their optimal bundles. The market demand is the sum of each of their demands. We take the demand for each of the goods for each of them. So we add up the demand for apples for all the Robs and all the Fridays. We add up the demands for bananas for all the Robs and all the Fridays. That gives us the market demand for apples as well as the market demand for bananas. Now, if the market demand is greater than the total supply, remember the total supply is fixed here, right? We have if we add up the endowments, all the endowments of apples or all the endowments of bananas, that gives us the total supply of apples or bananas. So if the market supply is the market demand for apples is greater than or less than the total supply, then the price has to adjust. It has to adjust until it's just equal, right? In other words, until we get to an equilibrium. And that has to be true for both markets. So until we get to a situation where we have an equilibrium in both markets, the prices are going to have to keep adjusting. And the price mechanism is what adjusts those. So take these prices. So there are some prices here that cause this to be the budget line. So let's suppose at these prices, when Rob picks his optimal bundle, it happens to be D. Now, relative to his endowment, what's going on here is that, remember, he was endowed with this many bananas, right? He was endowed with this many bananas. At D, he's consuming this many bananas. So he's getting rid of some of his bananas. However, he started with this many apples, but at this bundle D, which is his optimal bundle at these prices, he consumes this many apples, which is more apples than he started with. So what he's doing here is that he's selling bananas and buying apples. Okay, so similarly, we'll have Friday we'll ask Friday to maximize his preferences given the same prices as well. So Friday shows up at the market, he sees the same prices that Rob sees. So he says, okay, well, what's my optimal bundle? Well, this is remember this, he's got the same budget line, and he's going to pick his optimal bundle, and let's suppose it's G. Right? So what he's doing here, what's Friday doing? Remember, he started with that many bananas, but he's consuming this many bananas. So at G, he's consuming more bananas than he started with, but he is giving up apples. Right? He started with this many apples, but he's only consuming this many apples at his optimal bundle. So he gives up this many apples to gain this many bananas. Now at these given prices, there's an excess demand for bananas. Right? So the total number of bananas that Rob and Friday are demanding is, remember, Rob is going to, this is the bundle that Rob would like to consume given these prices. So the total number of bananas he consumes here is this many, right? It's given by this arrow here. The number of bananas consumed by Friday is this many. So it's given by this arrow here. Altogether, that's more bananas than are in the economy, right? Remember, the height of this box is the total number of bananas. So between them, they're demanding more bananas than are available. So there's an excess demand for bananas. On the other hand, there's an excess supply of apples. Similar reasoning tells us, how many apples does Rob consume? He consumes this many apples. Friday consumes this many apples. Those don't add up to the width of the box. Remember, the width of the box is a total number of apples. Effectively, we have this many extra apples left over. So there's an excess supply of apples. So what this tells us is that the price of these guys are asking for too many bananas and too few apples. So the price of apples relative to bananas has to fall. So if apples get cheaper and bananas get more expensive, then these guys might adjust their demands correctly so that there would be no excess supply or excess demand. Right? So if the price of apples drops and bananas goes up, in other words, if PA over PB, right, in the end that's what we are interested in. So if that decreases, that means that the budget line gets flatter. Right? So remember, minus PA over PB is the slope of the budget line. Right? So if the price of apples falls and the price of bananas increases, then this thing just gets flatter. That's why we go from this budget line that we started with, and we rotate to this new budget line that's flatter. Now, if it just happened, this adjustment process is going to keep happening until we get to a point where when we ask both of these guys to maximize their preferences, so each of them shows up to the market and they look at the prices, they sell their endowments, they get some income from that, they then decide what the optimal bundle is for them that they can afford. And if it so happens that the prices are such that there's no excess demand or excess supply of either good, that means that there's a point like F where when each of them maximizes their preferences and chooses their optimal bundle, those coincide to form a feasible allocation. And then we call the prices that give us this budget line, we call those competitive equilibrium prices. So what's going on here is that Rob is selling, so relative to the starting point E, Rob is selling exactly as many bananas as Friday buys. And he buys exactly as many apples as Friday sells. So there's a double coincidence of wants, right? So what each person is selling is exactly what the other person is buying. Which, when we look at the prices when they weren't in equilibrium, there wasn't this coincidence. So formally, what is a competitive equilibrium? A competitive equilibrium consists of a price for each of the goods, right? So a price for each of the goods, as well as an allocation of the goods. So a bundle for each of the agents, such that given those prices, these bundles are optimal for the two agents, and the market's clear. We use the terminology of markets clearing to mean that the total supply equals total demand. Right? So there's no excess supply or demand.